Welcome, everybody, to a brand new edition of Personal Flash Paper. I am your host, Randy Glenn, and with me today, joining the call second, Ryan Moore.
That's right. I beat Rob today, everybody. That's right.
And of course, that Baker kid, Rob Baker.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Yeah, I'm pulling rear security again. Third chair, baby.
Third chair. I mean, we should start taking a tally on episodes of who is what chair.
It's gonna be funny because what's happened? We're gonna say, "Hey, we're gonna record at 7," and then we're gonna start locking in at like 6. And like, oh,
yeah, everybody's gonna try to get on even earlier and earlier and earlier. That's hilarious. On today's episode, we are going to be covering the weapons chart on Infinity. So we're going to link the weapons chart in the show notes when we post this, so you can follow along if you're at home or if you're driving in the car. Just close your eyes, but don't close your eyes, and you can imagine we're looking at a chart. It's amazing. But before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Tabletop Games and Hobby in Overland Park, Kansas. Definitely check out their web store in our show notes below. And remember, at Tabletop Games and Hobby, we can't wait to see you at the table. So, gentlemen, how excited are you to talk about the old weapons chart?
I like the weapons. I mean, without it, it'd be, just a bunch of people staring at each other. So
I imagine
really makes the game exciting.
I imagine that Infinity without weapons would just be one big Rochambeau contest.
Well, it'd have to be.
Yeah.
Who would win at that though? Who would win at a Rochambeau contest?
The Avatar.
The Avatar.
I was gonna say any tag.
That's dunk. Oh, it's so good. So
all the remotes.
all the remotes. The puppeteer would, of course. So when we get started on the weapons chart here, the first category is bows. There are two types of bows. There's a tactical bow and a viral bow. Their ranges are the same. Their pluses and minuses are the same. They have a short range of 8 inches, medium range is 16, and long range up to 24. They do physical damage with a burst of 1. Where everything changes is the ammo. Do you guys want to talk about the ranges, the damage, the burst, the ammo, and all that good stuff?
Well, I think we should just kind of summarize up the range bands. I mean, I don't think we need to go, like, for instance, in a bow, I don't think we need to go from 0 to 8 is +3, from 8 to 16 is 0. So I think, the bow is a short range weapon, right?
Yes.
That's really what it's for. But, and it's really, its specific role, and it's not even ammo type. It's the trait of silent that makes the bow something useful, right? So you can have a model. Typically, in most cases, it's a ninja or the dude from Ariadne, who I can't think of, Foxtrot. Is that right, Rob?
No, I think you're thinking of the hard case.
Yeah, the hard case. Yep, the hard case. They can get out of the line of sight of somebody and shoot their bow and not cause that person an ARO to spin around and get back at him, right? So that's the key of what makes a bow special. They're typically really low damage because it's based on the physical of the person. Their burst is 1, so it's not a great weapon anyways, but it's the sneakiness factor. That's why you would use a bow.
So let me ask you guys a question, because you're talking about hiding and the silent. Do you think that the bows, is that what the bow really is for, is that silent trait that they have on there? Because they do have a save attribute, and each one's different. The tactical bow goes to your arm, and the viral tactical bow is your BTS. Which one would you rather have, the tactical bow or the viral tactical bow?
Oh, you got to go viral. And here's why. Because the tactical bow is just DA. And the viral tactical bow is DA plus shock, but also being viral, you take 2. It's 2 saves for every hit, so it can really do some damage. But again, typically, you're close ranged. You have to be within 8 inches to get +3. A lot of the models that have it don't have great ballistic skills, so you're not going to be taking any long range shots with those, and it's typically not your first go-to in most cases. I would think that if you have a bow, it's not normally your first go-to option.
Okay. Rob, you want to throw anything else in there on bows before we move on?
Well, no, I think that another thing to consider with the bow are the models that have bow. So like the hard case, the ninja, they have a camouflage attribute that is with those models. And I think that plays into how you utilize that range band because in three, and I haven't played a hard case in four, so I'm not 100% sure about this. But within three, the hard case had ambush as a skill, and so you were putting two camo markers down for that hard case drop. And I think that the tactical bow makes sense for the range band because you have to discover at a long range, and or if you're too close, you're going to get shot with that bow. And I think that really plays into how the weapon and the model profile go hand in hand.
That's a fair point. I mean, I think that with all the weapons, when you're looking at them, depending on the model, it also depends on what you're trying to do. I agree that the viral tactical bow is just better. I mean, like if you have the choice between that and the viral, how many? So let me ask this question before we completely go past this, and I promise I won't bog us down into bows. What do you think the point difference should be between those two weapons? If the models are equipped totally the same in a perfect Rob and Ryan world, what's the point difference?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
1 point, 2 point, 3 points.
yeah,
One.
probably 2 points.
I was going to say three to five, somewhere in there, because I think that
I don't think 5. If you could compare it to, because let's just say you've got a model that has it, so you're looking at say 20 points versus 25 points. I don't think it's worth.
Okay, that's a good
5.
point.
If you lay it out in what it would be altogether, I don't think 5. That's why I'm like a couple points.
Yeah, maybe 3 at a max.
And it also might be depend on what else that model has and like the rest of its stat, because I don't think that everything should have the same, like this model or this skill is worth 6 points, this skill is worth 4 points. I think it's like, yeah, but this combination of these two skills that you're saying is worth 10 points is really worth like 20 points on this model. So I don't necessarily know.
Sure. Well, that's what I'm saying. If everything is equal and then the only change is the equipment change out, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I would just say a couple points.
Well, moving on to the CC weapons or close combat weapons, there's quite a few here on the old list. And it goes from AP CC weapon to Vorpal CC weapon in CC mode. I do like how they put the Vorpal weapon in throne mode, and it has an 8-inch band, and you get a +3 to hit with it, so that's better.
Yeah, and I think so. When you're talking about close combat weapon, you're really the weapon for most cases. Sword, hammer, axe, whatever. It's the damage type. So is it AP? Is it DA? Is it shock? Is it AP plus DA? Is it EM, explosive? Monofilament. Those are all like the damage type. So I think really now trench hammer, Vorpal weapon. Those are a little bit different. But I really think you're looking at like what ammo type, and I know it's what close combat weapons. So it's not really ammo type, but I think what ammo type there is really what you're looking at.
Okay, but I know you're looking at the ammo type, but do you care at all about saving attributes? And I ask this question because when you're writing up your list and you notice what your weapons are, like let's say we were actually good players and we paid attention to everything, like we were like hardcore competitive, would you care about having a couple models in your list that had the ability to make you save against BTS, or if you were arm heavy and or vice versa? Would you care about that stat?
I think so, and the reason I think so is because when we did mind wipe, right, one of the things that was important was the ammo type of DA.
Yeah, but that's ammo type, not save attribute. He's talking save attribute.
Okay, save attribute.
Armor, yeah. BTS, right? Well, I mean, there's really, if you think about it, if you look at the line, there's only 2 on here that are BTS. That's the Vorpal close combat weapon, that is DA plus shock, and that is the EM close combat weapon, right? So really, all of these are armor. So I mean, like to go back to kind of what Rob was saying is that I don't think save attribute is what you're looking at. I think ammo type is what you're looking at when you're making your selections.
Well, no, I'm sure. No, I'm sure you do look at the ammo type, and that's the big deal. But I'm asking because there are some models that have our armor arms stacked, and their BTS is trash, and there's some models that are just BTS stacked and their arm is trash. Do you want to have a good mix, and not just in CC weapons, but as we go down the list, do you care about that?
Yeah, so that was my next wing. So you're just talking about in general when you're looking at building, not
Yeah. In
necessarily close
general,
combat. Okay.
right? In general, not just because I mean, obviously, the close, like you said, there's only two, and finding those two weapons in every army is going to be tough. But I would assume that you're going to want to find something that is a way to deal with a threat. And usually the best way to deal with a threat is either how to avoid it, range it, get close to it. I mean, there's several ways to deal with threats, but how that happens within the weapon system itself, I would assume that's something that we should check out. Or if you're a newer player, you would definitely want to look at that line.
Yeah, kind of. So when I posed this topic, right, I was talking about, if we even say, let's look at the range bands. So if you were looking at the long range bands, what weapons fit in that? How do you use them? How does that change, right? So I think this you want is along the same line. So when you're looking building your list, you're like, you don't want all 8-inch, 0 to 8-inch weapons, right? You need to have something that's going to reach out. So you have to have a mix. And I think that's also in the ammo type, right? My generic list for the Akari takes 2 Yan-Yans, one of which has the DA, one of which has the AP close combat weapon, right? Really no super rhyme or reason except for that I'm just covering some of those bases. So,
I mean,
that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense because as you look through, like, I know that going from other gaming systems, Warhammer in particular, usually what you're almost looking at is the strength of the weapon, and that's really the big, I gotta have this type of strength weapon. I gotta have the strength. Gotta have the strength. And in this, strength is important, but there's more to the weapon itself. And I think if you're a brand new person jumping into N4 or nobody's ever explained it to you, when you look at the damage, some people will be like, well, the damage is 12. That's crap. Well, is it? Because there's other things that it does as well that could be super helpful. And I think of like the monofilament weapon, when I look across its stat line, I think that's huge. Like monofilament's awesome. But if you were just looking at the damage, you'd be like, 12, that's meh. I mean,
Yeah. And so I also think that look at the role of the model. So if you have a model that has a decent close combat weapon and your purpose for that model is this one's going to go out and take on my opponent's heavily armored tags or warriors or whatever, right? AP is probably going to be something you're going to be paying more attention to because, you're going to cut that armor in half, or monofilament even better, right? But if you're like, this model is going to go out and in the backfield and he's just going to chunk through your cheerleaders, well, then AP is not going to do you any because most of those are going to have 1 armor, right? And that's going to be reduced with AP to 1 armor. So it's not going to have any effect. Whereas DA is going to give you 2 wounds to that 1 attack. And that's going to be vastly more beneficial or explosive, right? Because that's going to be 3 wounds for that one. And that's going to be even better. So I think that's what you have to take into consideration. So what is the role of that model? And am I equipping him to best achieve that objective?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm completely, totally on board with you on that. I know that when I started,
as you should be.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I remember when I started Infinity, when these weapon charts this is kind of overwhelming if you really think about it, because it's a subsection of the game itself. Because a lot of games, you pick a model and this is its kit out. It's like, okay, you're done with it. But this, you have a model and it could have up to 13 different, ways to do it. And then you have to figure out if that's the best way. And then you have to look at the weapons it has, and then you have to go to the weapon and see what the weapon does. And so it's a lot of tiers on the list. So when I look at these weapon lists that we have that we're checking out right now, it can be a little bit of a daunting task, in my opinion. But I'm not a smart guy, so
Well, Randy, I think you also are looking at it in the book, correct?
yeah.
And the reason I lead that question out there is looking at it in a book, yeah, it is a daunting thing. But with the wiki and the way things are linked in the wiki and from Infinity Army website, you can click on that and then it's click on, speculative attack or a throwing weapon or whatever the trait may be. And that's why I was getting how I got confused on the ammo versus the save type is because I was thumbing through and I got discombobulated on where my finger was in terms of where the column was in the actual book.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And I won't bog us down with my silliness and on, of course, close combat weapons. Is there any close combat weapon that sticks out in your guys' minds as something that's special?
The monofilament is really it's weird. It's an interesting weapon that I do like, but also like you said, it's only damage or damage 12. However, the opponent doesn't get an armor save, and if he takes a wound from it, he goes straight to dead. So if you go up against a tag that has, let's say 3 structure and armor 6, right, and you hit it, well, it's not adding armor 6, and it fails that 12 roll, it's done. That you've wiped it with one swipe. Now, there's not a lot of monofilament out there, but
Aleph. Aleph.
Yeah. Okay. So, but anyways,
Ryan, it's funny you talk about monofilament because that was one of the two that I had identified. The other one being Vorpal, because it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, it really is. And Vorpal, I think, may only be combined army. I can't think of anybody.
I think it is.
Okay, I mean, I was going to say monofilament as well as the stand-up. The Vorpal throwing it is definitely neat because it adds a +3 to hit. But like you said, it's only a 12. But I think monofilament is situational to where you're tag hunting or going after big armored models, and it's like save or die, which is crazy in this game. Save or die is a nutso thing. I think everybody that plays a elite force, when you're 10 orders or less, you have a huge risk of just getting wiped out by monofilament if you let somebody in on you.
Which goes back to your threat range and how you deal with that threat at what range.
Exactly.
Somebody's got a monofilament or Vorpal. It's like, I need to take that guy out at range.
Yeah, no, exactly. What do you guys think of? I mean, flamethrowers, we don't have to take a lot of time on because there's 2. There's heavy and light. They're both teardrops. Heavy is obviously better than light. I mean, I just like the heavy flamethrowers because you're not rolling to hit. What do you guys think about flamethrowers?
The thing I like about flamethrowers is for the U.S. Ariadne grunt that carries it with infiltration, right? Because that is a thing that your opponent has to deal with. Because a flamethrower, the large teardrop and, the damage of 14, that's nothing to scoff at. Plus, it's continuous damage.
So for those of people that don't know, what is continuous damage?
So if you fail your armor save, you get to make another armor save, and you keep trying to make that armor save as it essentially is on fire and is continuing to burn and cause damage.
Did anybody else have "This Girl Is on Fire" singing in their head when Rob said that? Anybody?
No, that was just you.
This model's on fire.
No, but if we ever start playing again, I'm going to start singing that anytime that person is on fire.
I do think what I do think is interesting about flamethrowers and template weapons like that is the deterrent that it creates too. So not even using it, just the effective deterrent. So a person can look like, okay, well, I need to come in, like we talked about the armory. I need to come in this armory, but he's got 2 flamethrowers there, which means I'm going to be eating a lot of fire, right? And so how do I get through that?
Barbecue.
Yeah. So I think that part of it is really important too. The covering lane you can take on the short range, right? But the deterrent that it comes into play, that mental deterrent is also a very strong impact, not just the damage it can lay out. and the fact that it can hit multiple people if it does it. So
Yeah, no, that's the big deal to me as well. Plus, anytime you can lay the playing field with a ARO and go, all right, cool, you shoot at me, I'm just gonna drop this template on your face, and that's the end of it. Haha, suck it, Trebek.
Well, and that also plays into the, to the choice, right? It's
Yeah,
here's my first short skill. I'm going to move this dude up that has a heavy flamethrower, and then you've got to decide. Well, am I going to shoot him or am I going to dodge? Because, well, if I dodge, at least I've got a chance of just ignoring all the damage. But if I shoot him and he's got heavy armor, I may have to be doing this dance again.
yep, and over and over and over again. The grenades, there are 4 of them. There's Eclipse, EM, grenades, and smoke grenades. Everybody knows the smoke grenades are excellent for screening. So are the Eclipse grenades as well. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about the EM grenades?
no.
Okay.
Is that because you're a Dirty Pano player?
No, I just liked it because he posed the question. So I'm like, no.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, no.
You know what? Screw it. Fine.
I mean,
you know what? No, we're not going to talk about it now. We're going to go to grenade launchers.
I just think we should talk about, so I think we should lump grenades and grenade launchers together.
Yeah, I think we should too.
Really. So, because, basically you're talking range bands. Really, grenades are good up to 8 inches. Grenade launchers are fine up to 24 inches. Right? I say fine because there's no plus range band.
But so from 0 to 24, you're money.
Yeah, and I think in most cases, really, you're talking smoke and eclipse grenades, right? Those are the most common grenades you're going to see. Obviously, both of them are obstructing line of sight. Eclipse grenades right now, no one can see through, so those are going to be complete line of sight blockers with an 8-inch diameter. Smoke grenades are going to block it, except for MSV1 and MSV2, or actually MSV3. Can all see through smoke. So that's really what you see. I've used grenades, like damage grenades, a handful of times. I've used EM grenades a few times, both of which have their places. But the problem is both of those, I think, really are typically used in grenade launchers, being shot at speculative fire, right? Somebody's just trying to lob a Hail Mary over a building and blow up all your dudes, or if it's EM, freeze all of your heavy infantry. That's how it got used against me. Somebody tried to EM grenade launch my Pano Knights, my Hospitaller Knights thing. He failed multiple times. Basically wasted an entire turn trying to do it. And so that's where I'm kind of like, it can be useful, but I would not bank my strategy around it.
Sure. What about you, Rob? What do you think?
No, I agree with Ryan. The one time that I think that...
Man, I am on a roll today. You guys agree with me?
You are on a roll. You are on a roll.
My episode, everybody.
Wait a second. You also chose this topic. I think there's some funny business going on. There's some Ryan Moore shenanigans at play. But I digress. The EM grenades that I've used have been against heavy infantry, and it's been kind of just a luck of the draw when Thrasymedes, when I was playing Aleph, and a Sujan was, locked in this cat and mouse game, pun quasi intended, of Thrasymedes throwing the EM grenades and the Sujan, dodging out of the way, dodging back, and holding that flank sort of thing. So, EM grenades do have their place, but, again, I agree with Ryan, and it pains me to say that, but agreeing with Ryan in that I'm not going to base my entire strategy around one grenade type.
Well, I have based strategies around Eclipse grenades with the Toha, but that is a very,
that's an exception to that rule, I think.
Yeah, I would think so too. Or typically, Yan Yans and dual Rushis, right? Though that's a good strategy, but everything is not centered around that.
Yeah. Well, and your Rushi also has, the the hacking program that's put on it, and so
assisted fire Rushis.
Yes. So
and 3 Rushis were much better than 4 Rushis because the assisted fire doesn't do the same thing as it used to do, but it's still very good.
But that does play into your strategy of, okay, I need smoke grenades and I need this. And it's not, okay, my entire thing is going to be centered around this Eclipse grenade or this EM grenade.
Yeah. Yeah. Outside of extreme cases, like I did play with a Toha list that literally used Eclipse grenades. And the idea was I wanted to make a close combat one. So it was McCall's and Eclipse grenades and big things that I'm just going to try to cover and just push everything as far forward as fast as possible. I never did it, but that was my plan.
It's good to have plans.
That is super true. What about, so these are one of my favorite weapons coming up, which is the heavy machine guns, just because of the damage burst ratio that you have, and they're great at the mid-range game. What do you all, Rob, I'm not asking Ryan any more questions. F that guy.
Yeah, because you know the deck is stacked.
The deck is stacked. You know what? Rob, what do you think about the machine gun list? And there are only 4, but I mean, what do you think of those?
I'm a big fan of them. And when I was running USARF, the Minutemen with the AP HMG, it stellar, because you could have, you know, a lieutenant option with that, and you could have the normal option with that. So having a link team with 2 AP HMGs, you know, at least an N4 with armor being, you know, very much a thing, cutting that armor in half and raining down Hellfire on a heavily armored target, and you're cutting its armor in half. Sweet.
Yeah, heavy machine guns to me, I mean, even like AP, multi-heavy, you know, that's irrelevant to me. Like heavy machine guns are good all across the board. The damage 15, burst 4, I don't care about the ammo. They're all great, right? And I typically always try to have at least one, and part of it is because of the range bands, because I have such a longer reach. I mean, really out to 48 inches, but
Yeah,
really 32 inches. You're looking at some, you know, that little bit longer range up to 32 inches, which means I'm going to be out there bad touching way before people get to me, with a high damage, high burst, total reaction bot. Like, especially if your meta is new and people are starting it, we're going to jump all over total reaction bots. You'll start to figure out how to get around them, and they'll become less prevalent. But I still put one on almost every list because the utility of that heavy machine gun is very nice. It's very nice. Again, stunned in silence.
I was taking a wicked piss, man.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just saying. I was just going to the bathroom. It's whatever. That's what I thought of what you were saying. It made me go to the bathroom.
And it was a wicked piss.
It was a wicked pissa.
Yeah. I mean, so to get us back on track here, I think heavy machine guns are pretty close to an auto-include weapon. Like, you want to try to at least get one in your list at all possibilities.
Yeah, I would agree to that. I think that you definitely need it, especially to board control in the center, which is where I would think that the big deal of that would be.
Yeah, and that's why total reaction bots I think are great too. And a lot of times you'll see, especially new players, you'll get a total reaction remote sitting on top of a building. And I actually take the Q drone, which Rob can attest to multiple times, and I will put him on the ground floor, and then he'll run up and kill stuff on his way up and get into an awkward position on the side of the table, and then just wait. Right, because if I get him up on a building and he eliminates what he can see, or my opponent goes around him, then he doesn't do me any good there. Right, so being able to move him, I think, is much more important at that point.
And your Q drone also has a pretty hefty move value, so you know, boot scoop and boogie that guy.
Yeah, all of the remotes do. I think they're all 6'4" or 6'2". I think it's 6'4".
But
yeah.
What my point was a mobile weapons platform.
Yeah, and the Q drone has mimetism, which is what makes it the best total reaction bot out there. But I mean, I think the idea is the same in that case. But I like having a HMG in a place where it can cover some advance, but still be able to move if I need him to move. So I don't like him to be up on the third floor of a tower and there's no way for him to get down. You put him up there, unless that position is just primo, right? It's not. It's late game, or when you need that guy to move, he's just not going to be able to.
Yeah, you definitely need the flexibility, even because the machine guns, because their range band is that 24 to 32 inch. That's that's where you're talking all the sugar. So you want to be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's really 16 to 32.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just going off of the.
Yeah.
When you look at your charts, they're talking about you're perfect in the 24 and the 32 band, and there's that 8-inch on each side. With the marksman rifles, moving to just straight rifles, we lose a little bit of burst from the machine guns. We lose a little bit of the damage. Generally speaking, the marksman rifles are a little bit cheaper, obviously. They do still bring the suppressive fire that the machine guns bring. Is there standouts in the rifles that you guys really like, or are they just kind of like, I'll take any of them?
If I have my druthers, I'm going to go with either the K1 or the Shock. T2's sweet too, because that's, 2, wounds if you score a successful hit.
And we see more marksmen in level N4, right? More models have started taking marksman rifles, which is nice because it used to be very limited on who had it. Like everybody had a combi rifle and very few people had marksman rifles. Now most people have a combi rifle and we're getting more people having marksman rifles. Marksman rifles are good for a couple of things. And one of them is they've got a pretty nice range band. They're good up to 24 inches. So, 2 feet. They're going to be that +3 from 8 to 24. But it's the ammo type that really kind of helps bring them into their own. And the multi-marksman rifle is it's got everything covered, right? It's got AP or shock mode or DA mode if you want it. So I think it is like, and I don't have a good comparison, but it's the next step up from your basic grunt. Actually probably 2 steps up because your basic grunt rifle will be a rifle, then there's a combi rifle, and then there's the marksman rifle. So you've been in the service a little bit longer, you've earned some more kudos, and so you get a little bit better weapon.
See, and that's one of the reasons why I like the K1 is because the K1 negates the armor. You've got an armor value of 0, so you're, again, able to hunt something that is heavily armored, whether it's actually heavy infantry or whatever.
Yeah, and I had a model do just that with K1, and not only that, he did it in ARO when we were doing the team tournament at Wapaka a couple of years back, and he took out stuff that was way, way better than he was, but he just had one roll in the K1 marksman, and it just drops their armor to 0. So this armor 6 badass dude is no longer armor 6.
He armor 0.
And that damage 13 hurts when you don't have when you can't add anything to it.
It really does. Plus the 3 shots also make it kind of juicy, right? The burst of it. I like almost any weapon that gives you the suppressive fire trait with some goodness to it, because that K1 marksman, like you were saying, your heavy armor guys, your tags and stuff have to actually think about where they're going to go to or risk taking just shots.
Yeah, to me, really, it's the additional 8 inches that are the +3 range, from that 16 to 24 being +3, gives the marksman rifle just a bit more versatility in where I can use that model and how I can move and position that guy.
Yeah. Well, I assume that your marksman rifle guys are definitely going to be your more mobile troops. You're definitely trying to get into some sort of position.
Yeah, and another thing to consider is, things like Drews, right? The Drews all come with an X visor, and there is a specific loadout for one of the Drews that is the Shock marksman rifle. And now you have altered that range band from the 0 to 24 or 0 to 16 being a -3. Now that's +3. So, that X visor and the loadout of the troop type really does play a factor in, this weapon.
What about mines? What do you guys think about the mine list in this game?
Mines are a tricky one, right? Because when you think about the mines, we'll probably just say deployables, right? Because that includes things like drop bears, which are basically mines you throw into place, right? Or
Sure.
or some of those other pieces like what is it? Yeah, wild parrots, which are basically EM mines that can do some stuff. But I think mines are more, to me, mines are used as board control. Like I'm going to funnel you down to this tunnel, and I'm going to set up positions for either A, mines are going to force you to go that way because you want to get around them, or B, you're going to have to go around it because you don't want to face the 2 heavy machine guns over there. So you're going to run your risk of running down this mine. And they also are used for that mental game of, is that a mine or is that a camo trooper? And then your opponent has to pick. That's where that camo troopers that have mine layer or decoy, that's where they become really just those 2 camo tokens down there become that mental game. And to me, that's where mines really come in handy. And I've had mines do some work. Really, out of this, the mines that I've had to do the most are not your typical mines that you're laying on the ground. They are the chest mines that my Crackout Renegade wears.
That is a true story.
And that has come handy. Basically, it's a mine strapped to his chest, and he can pull it and load the people up in front of him. And if he dies, he blows himself up and everybody else with it. So it's really fun. But to me, I think mines are a deterrent weapon or board control weapon.
As they pretty much should be.
You just mean in the idea of that's what mines really are.
The idea of what mines are, how they are used, how they're employed.
In real world, right, yeah.
Yes. Which is why I said as they should be when talking about mines and how
Yep.
you talk about, denying avenues of approach and board control.
Yeah, I think an interesting thing to talk about around it is the mine dispenser, which is basically a weapon that shoots mines out. I think of it visually when I'm thinking about it is, for any of you who have been shooting for clay pigeons, you load the clay pigeon in this little wandy, I don't know what it's called, sling, and basically chuck it. And that's what, and to me, that's what I, have this vision of people just loading this mine and chucking it.
See, I look at it from the point of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies of Iron Man, when Iron Man is actually flying and deploys flares, right? I look at it from that aspect of it's chucking out mines, just like Iron Man was shooting out flares.
All right. I like mine better because it's funnier.
Clay
To your target audience of 1.
Shoot.
Well, I just, because if you think about it, like, especially Ariadne, right, who don't have a lot of like technology, so like, hey, well, if you think about it, that's probably a lot of modern military is like, hey, we're just gonna slap this in here, and you're gonna arm this mine, and then just chuck it. You're fine. You're fine. So, but
moving on to the rest of the list, the pistols. So pistols has a huge list. There's a huge variety of pistols ranging from the damage of 14 all the way down to 11. It comes in all shapes and sizes, all save attributes. Most of the traits are either non-lethal jumps out now. Your range, there's obviously going to be a short range thing up to 8 inches if you're really trying to do it. I think it'd be hilarious to try to snipe somebody in the 24-inch bracket, at over 24, but under 32. That would be hilarious. Are you guys, when you're selecting your pistols, is there any pistol that you're kind of like, I need, or do you just kind of look at the pistols as, that's just a little extra something?
For me, it's the secondary choice, right? I look at what the main weapon is, what the main purpose of that troop choice is going to be. So like a sniper. The sniper is going to be the sniper. And then if there is a breaker pistol or if there is an AP pistol or something weird, then I'm going to look at it and be like, ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think to me, if you're picking a model based on the type of pistol, and this is coming from me, who, for those we've talked about, most models I have waiting on my paint desk are armed with pistols, like like in the model. If you're picking a model based on the type of pistol, you're probably doing it wrong.
Wow. Strong.
Well,
that was harsh.
That was
Well,
harsh.
I mean, if you're waiting, like I'm going to let my opponent get in within 8 inches of me so I can use this assault pistol, then you probably should have had an idea of what to do try before they get within 8 inches of you. I think most models outside of say Wild Bill have other things, and their pistol is just their secondary. The upside of pistols is they can be used in close combat. So it is possible for you to get an AP, damage 14 in close combat because using a pistol. So I think that is the key factor of pistols, because I think didn't we all lose knives now? Nobody has knives anymore. So
yeah,
your pistol is your go-to close combat weapon for pretty much everybody.
Yeah, I think it definitely would be. Which brings us into, and I brought up the non-lethal, and the other non-lethal form of weapons is the riot stoppers. Off the top of my head, when we decided to do this show, I can't think of a model that has a riot stopper.
012. 012 has most of has all those.
Is that what it's going to be?
Yep.
I haven't really looked at 012 that much, so
yeah. 012 is chock full of riot stoppers. Lots and lots of riot. Like you get a riot stopper. They Oprah Winfrey riot stoppers in the 012.
You get a riot stopper, and you get a riot stopper. So they're just stunning people all over the place, huh?
Yep. The key here is that riot stoppers, like flamethrowers, are template weapons. If it was like what is the acrylite cannon, which is basically a riot stopper that you shoot, I don't see them as being as useful. But since they are a template, they basically paralyze you. You stick somebody, they get immobilized. That could be deadly, because if you can get somebody like a tag or an avatar and then get them stuck, which is not easy to do, but if they do get stuck, I mean, then you have your dude with your monofilament or whatever just come up and just shank him right in the side.
Right. Yep. And the aspect of the saving attribute comes into play when you're talking about, tags and dodges and things like that, because it's a Fizz -6.
Yep.
That's true too. I mean, we really don't need to stop it at the riot gear or riot weapons. We now get to move into kind of some of the fun ones. The rocket launcher, which is...
Randy, I need to back you up because you did jump over rifles.
Did I really?
Yeah. Pistols, rifles, riot stoppers. You went from pistols to riot stoppers.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. I did do that. I did skip rifles because we did
the marksman rifle.
Yeah, we did the marksman rifle. And here comes basically the same list again, just at a shorter range.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to go, but I just wanted to make sure we did for completeness. Like it's got,
yeah, you're right.
There's a couple different things, like for example, the plasma rifle, right? And the combi rifles, and then just like, so there's rifle. Basically, think of it this way: there's rifle and there's combi rifle, and those are the range bands. So like your rifle is going to be good in up to 16 inches, but over 8, right? Where your combi rifle is going to be good up to 16 inches. So that's, like you said, that's your basic grunt of a weapon. They have all of the mixed loadout. This is your generic basic weapon for everybody. Plasma rifle is a little different because with plasma changing, they now drop a circular template when they hit, which is so sweet. So they are a little more deadly. And it to me, in this list of rifles, the plasma rifle and the viral rifle, and the viral combi rifle really are the two that I like the most.
Yeah, I'd give an honorable mention to the T2 rifle.
Okay.
And again, this is a list that all of these also can give you suppressive fire too. So
yeah, and that's important. So now back to rocket launchers, Ryan. What do you guys think?
I'm a big fan of the HRL. That heavy rocket launcher can do some work.
Yeah, so to me, the funny thing is I don't have many rocket launchers in any of the stuff that I have been able to take. Typically, what I see is that a force will either have rocket launchers available to them or missile launchers available to them. They don't typically have a lot of both in some cases, but in most cases it seems to be one type or the other. For example, Ariadne has rocket launchers.
And the
And
Minuteman has a missile launcher, and it's the only missile launcher out
yeah,
there.
yeah. So I mean, so that's kind of what I say. This is like it seems like a force, which I think is neat, right? Because I think to me, like instead of having everybody has every type of weapons, they make it like, hey, well, you guys are gonna you lean heavier. You had a lot more research into rockets. You guys had a lot more research into missiles, right? So whatever. The key here is the difference between the heavy and the light, right? The heavy rocket launchers are going to do more damage and have a longer range. So their range band is going to be longer. So these, to me, serve kind of two different roles. The heavy rocket launcher is going to be more of my early turn when you're still back right out of your deployment zone. And I'm trying to pick off stuff as you approach. Where then you get to the light rocket launchers is like now the game is afoot and we're in the midfield doing our skirmish maneuvers. The light rocket launcher becomes more effective.
Yeah, I agree with that. There was a game that I played with Mike Moran where
Man, I should have been keeping track of all of the agreements this time.
you should be, or maybe that's why you moved up to second chair. So anyway, with my game with Mike Moran, I was in the midfield doing exactly what you're describing with Rosie the Riveter, who has a light rocket launcher. And there was this, really good dance between Leela Sharif and Rosie that was going on where even though I would have the advantage, the weight of dice sort of thing, and he would have the weight of dice, it was just this back and forth, midfield battle, which was awesome and describes exactly how you just described a light rocket launcher doing work.
All right. So to kind of summarize rocket launchers, I think, and also a piece that we probably need to say is that they have a template, right? So you can do damage to a bigger area. It's not like you're shooting this one guy. You can hit anything around them, which is great. And they also do the continuous damage. So that's the big advantage to rocket launchers is basically you can just shoot a ball of fire right in the middle of a dude. And that's where I think the big benefit of rocket launchers come in.
Yeah, and I think that mirrors the real life incendiary round or explosive round that a actual rocket launcher can fire. There's been times where having the Marauder heavy rocket launcher or Rosie with the light rocket launcher in the midfield, taking on those heavily armed targets and kind of banking on either getting that continuous damage to go through or lightly armored with the explosive round, because you do have two different types of profiles of ammunition you can choose. One that has the template or one that has a higher damage.
Yep. And that's where I think what makes them shine too. There's that choice.
Which gives you the ability in game to kind of choose your strategy, choose your tactic on the fly. When your opponent drops, heavily armored thing, it's like, okay, well, I've got the damage to help crack that, or I've got the ability to put a little bit more pressure on their armor roll.
Yeah, that's true. Should we talk about shotguns then?
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the shotguns, to the shotty shots. One of the things that I like about the N4 version of shotguns is the T2 boarding shotgun. I mean, that's just tasty right there.
Well, I think to me, the part that really, the two pieces that make shotguns, I'm going to do air quotes, important, right, is that they typically have a little bit higher damage than your normal like combi rifle and normal rifle, but it's that up close and personal, they are +6. Within 8 inches, you are +6 to the hit, and that makes them very good. And they have 2 modes, the hit mode and the blast mode, which is the teardrop, right? So that's their versatility up close. If you're playing on a big open table, shotguns are not going to be your friend. But if you're playing on a tight table or in the armory, as we talked about a couple episodes again, shotguns are are really nice, and they come in a couple different varieties, right? There's a boarding shotgun, there's a heavy shotgun, there's a light shotgun, there's T2 and Vulcan, which is just ammo types, right? And they range anywhere from, light shotguns damage 13, boarding shotgun is damage 14, but the heavy shotgun is damage 15. They're all burst 2. They're all direct template and straight shot, right? So I think that's kind of the cool part about shotguns is they do have some diversity, and some things you can do there utility wise.
Yeah, and just for completeness, there is the light shotgun, which does have the damage of 13.
Did I say that?
You said 15 and 14.
Oh, I
At
thought
least
it just
that's
went
what
over.
I heard.
Yeah,
It may have just been that
you're not
selective
listening.
hearing. Yeah, selective hearing. I was listening, just not in the active turn.
Yeah, you're only hearing with one ear because it's your ARO.
That's right.
One ear.
So, yeah. I think a lot of times I like shotguns. If I'm going to have some people kind of huddled in the back, and I like to have one of those guys with a shotgun, just if I'm going to make it difficult to come get you, like I'm in a building, have some cheerleaders or my LT in the building, and I can get a shotgun in that building to help protect him. I think that's good. Or if I have to hold something like the armory, getting a shotgun in the armory is pretty handy.
I like shotguns. I almost like shotguns in reverse of what you're talking about. I like shotguns to actually go hunt people down with, especially that T2 or a heavy shotgun. I mean, you get close to one of those, you're just going to get blown up.
Yeah, I don't hate that. The only thing I don't like about that is it's order intensive, right? You have to spend a lot of orders to get that dude up there. And sometimes where I like to spend less orders and have more range, so I don't have to move as far up. I can just get angle. I do have a table that I built at the beginning of the pandemic, which is my interior of Mount Weather table that has yet to see action. So hopefully that will. And on that board, shotguns are probably going to be shotguns, SMGs that that 16 to 24 inch range band on some of those things. And then some of that stuff that shoots really close is probably going to be really handy because it's got a lot of corridors and curves and angles.
Yeah, and one of the things to consider about, shotguns, boarding shotguns and the like is that ballistic skill. Because a lot of troops, and I'm thinking specifically about the Yon, they have a chain rifle, which is I just lay a template down. I don't have to roll for it. And they also have the boarding shotgun. And this talks about the teardrop template that we talked about with the heavy flamethrower. The teardrop template, when it comes to a Yon and a boarding shotgun, I'm really gonna lean for that 6-point difference for the chain rifle versus the boarding shotgun.
Yeah, no, for sure. I couldn't agree more. Do you guys want to talk about? I want to clump these. So let's go to sniper rifles because this is the long range reach out and touch somebody. It goes from 15 to the K1, which is 13. What are you guys thinking about these sniper rifles?
I like to much like HMGs, I like to try to at least have one sniper rifle. I don't always, but I typically look on what a sniper rifle, what do I have that has access to a sniper rifle? Because that, out to 48 inches. So from 16 to 48, they're +3, and that's a lot. And typically they're higher damage. So they can really reach out and touch someone.
Yeah, and I also like looking at the overall troop choice. For example, with Ariadna and the Blackjack. The Blackjack, it's literally a sniper that is in cover all the time compared to Atlantia for Aleph. There you're looking at the actual ballistic skill because you're hitting anything that's on the board essentially.
Yeah, I mean, with Atlanta, you're not looking at ballistic skill because it's just 18s. I just need 18 or less. That's everything. Yep. Everything covers that.
But when you talk about sniper rifles, the ability to actually hit or take a hit, I think is really key to talk about in this segment, because the sniper rifle for the Blackjack is a T2, and the sniper rifle for Atlantia is a multi-sniper rifle.
Yeah, so really, I think if I'm looking at it, the multi-sniper rifle is really nice because it gives me the choices, right? Do I take DA? Do I take AP? Do I take shock? Um, a regular sniper rifle isn't bad, right? It's shock, it's damage 15, but just having a little bit more flexibility to choose is really nice.
Yeah, and like we talked about with the marksman rifles, that K1, you can get a K1 sniper rifle that drops the armor to 0. That's tag hunting in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, sniper rifles can really do some damage to tags, especially if you get the AP. Actually, even DA or like you said, T2. Any of that stuff is really good against um, tags. But it really boils down to the range band and the damage is what makes sniper rifles good.
Yeah, I mean, when you can reach out and touch somebody at that range, you're doing something right. Because that can kind of affect how you put your cheerleaders, at least how you used to cheerleaders, and for the orders not being so high. Well, we have one category. We have two categories left, but we're only going to cover one more, which is the old Spitfires.
I really think we
There,
cover the other one because there's some stuff in there that we should talk about.
There's
think
some
so? Okay.
craziness in there.
All right, well, we'll
All
cover
right.
it. All right,
All right,
we'll
Spitfires.
get to it. All right, but let's do Spitfires really quick. So there's an AP Spitfire and a Spitfire. They do suppress the fire. Spitfires are awesome. I don't think that anybody will say that they're not.
Spitfires are probably one of my favorite weapons platforms or
Yeah.
weapon systems. I just really like the Spitfire. It's a mid-range weapon. It's good from 18 to 24, but it's damage 14 and burst 4. Right? That's just that whole package there means you can get into position relatively easy without a lot of orders and just dish out some firepower.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And one of the things that I really like about N4 is they removed the Molotov, which was an Ariadne weapon only, and rolled it into the Spitfire category. And so now you've got the Unknown Ranger that has an AP Spitfire, which is just amazing.
Yep, I wish they would have done a little bit more with that. For example, as we'll talk about later, the Red Fury has the same range profiles. It's only damage 13 instead of 14, and it's shock. But I really wish they would have just made that shock Spitfire and just got rid
Shock
of the Red
Spitfire.
Fury, just to kind of clean things up a little bit more.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, cover your uncategorized list. That's a ton of stuff. Fast pandas, crazy koalas, deactivators, flame spears, flash pulse, firebox.
Yeah. So I think in here, I think there's just a couple things we should probably kind of hit. So there are some like limited disposable weapons like the Blitzen and stuff like that, who basically functions like missile, like a rocket launchers and stuff like that. But the missile launcher is in this category, right? And the missile launcher is similar to the rocket launcher. It just has a better or has a longer range band, so it's better further out, and is explosive, right? So it for every hit it's 3 damage, right? I think is something that's really pretty interesting. The Feuerbach is another great weapon out of here that I don't think should be overlooked. It's got a pretty decent range band, but it's armor or damage 14, but it also has an explosive. So in ARO, that's a very good deterrent. And then, like I said before, the Red Fury, which for the longest time I didn't really like them. I was like, but then when I started playing with the Zeodrons and really got some use out of the Red Fury, it's really started to shine for me. Even though it is only damage 13, if I'm using it to pick on, foot troops, line troops, that shock, taking them straight to dead, and having 4 dice to do it is very good. And then the last one that I'm going to mention, and then I'll put it over to Rob, is the submachine gun. The submachine gun is a great close range weapon. It's really only good up to 8 inches for the +3, right? But it's AP or shock, but it can also go to suppressive fire. So if it goes into suppressive fire, it really becomes a very, very handy hold my ground weapon.
Yeah, and for me, the standouts are the adhesive launcher, acrylite cannon that we talked about with the riot stoppers. You've got these huge glue guns that impose a fizz -6 or get stuck in that immobilized A state. Um, when you're dealing with tags and things that can just run amok on their own, these are things that are, if you can get them into your list, there's something to really take a look at, because they can do some work, and then you can navigate around the tag, you can navigate around Achilles, you can navigate around those things, because you don't have to worry about those guys running amok anymore. The other thing that I really like out of this list in the uncategorized section is the hyper rapid magnetic cannon, the HRMC. That thing, burst 5, AP shock. That thing in suppressive fire is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. So in suppressive fire, it's still only going to be burst 3, but
True.
The only reason I didn't bring it up is because so few models have it. Right? It's very, it's not very prevalent. So that's why I was like, yeah, it's cool.
But I think that's one of the reasons why we should mention it, is because when someone says, yeah, I'm going to be rolling, burst 5, what? Excuse me? Burst 5? Because rolling 5 dice can take care of a lot of problems.
Oh yeah, you can definitely eliminate some problems, but rolling that many dice. Unless, of course, your dice are fickle bitches.
Oh, look at you stealing the thunder. Yeah. I think the other thing is the jammer, right? Because that it doesn't need a line of fire. Now, granted, they've kind of nerfed it from N3 to N4, but it's still an intuitive attack. It's still got no line of fire, and it's in zone of control, and that will put you in an isolated state, which is great.
Yeah. So I think that's, I mean, you've got some other things in here like the Gizmo kit, bed kit. Those are all things you use on your people. The flash pulse and forward observer are also categorized in those. And those are just utility things that have solid place. But I think really weapon wise, I think that covers, not everything, but just kind of an idea of, what we are looking at as we go down the list of weapons.
Yep. So I think that pretty much covers the high points of the weapons charts.
Whoop, whoop.
Yep. I'm thinking that maybe next time we talk about how maybe, like, for example, if you do sniper rifles, what their role is and how it changes over the game, so maybe pick a couple weapons that you really like, or maybe we even put the poll up. It's like, what's your favorite weapon? And we kind of dive into how you utilize those to get the most out of them.
Yeah, no, for sure. So with that, another good episode, guys.
I was right. I was right a lot. So apparently, this is the best episode we've ever had.
Ooh, I don't know about that, there, Tiger.
Nope, it is.
All right, guys. Well, until next week, I will see you later. We will, I guess, record one more before Christmas.
Ooh.
Yeah, should be
Cool.
Hey.
Yay!
All righty. See y'all later.
All right, guys. Bye, everybody.
Tabletop Game and Hobby, located at 9156 Metcalf Avenue in Overland Park, Kansas, zip code 66212, has for over 25 years been the Kansas City area's premier game store, specializing in non-electronic games, carrying a massive variety of board games, miniature games, role-play games, classic games, and gaming accessories. Stop by, see what we have to offer, or give us a call at area code 913-962-4263, or visit us online at tabletopgameandhobby.com.
Background music. Flying Species. The Yellow Flying Cock. The use of these human works of music is granted under the current Creative Commons license terms and agreements. From the freemusicarchive.org, from the artists as listed. Thank you.